Ladies and gentlemen, and viewers all over the world, I want to welcome you once again to my YouTube class. So let's forge ahead. For today's class, we'll want to look at this organism that is called mollusca. Mollusca. When somebody mentions mollusca, the first thing that comes to the mind of an average biology student is snail. But as we go through the class and mention some of the examples, that is when you know that snail is one of the many examples of this a group of organisms known as mollusca. And of course, the phylum is mollusca. Don't forget that we have been studying all the phyla in the animal kingdom. We have studied protozoa, porifera, cnidaria, platyhelminths, nematoda, annelida, and now we are looking at the phylum that is called mollusca. The first thing I want you to note about mollusca is the fact that it's a soft-bodied animal. It's a soft-bodied animal. It has a very good soft body, and it is also a coelomate. Don't forget that I mentioned that all the organisms we'll be studying henceforth from Annelida down to Echinodermata sorry, are all coelomates. That means they have that fluid-filled cavity. And they are unsegmented. Yes, members of this group are unsegmented, even though we have a kind of internal segmentation that occurs in members of Monoplacophora, and that is why it is said that this phylum evolved from the segmented worm known as the Annelida. We'll still look at that when we come to the class Monoplacophora. Just a minute. So, then another thing is that another characteristic is the fact that they have shell. Shell is present in all of them. Apart from members of, what's it called again? The shell is only absent in members of cephalopoda. Members of cephalopoda, where you see the nautilus and the octopus. So that is the only class that is devoid of shell. If not, you see shell in all of them. Now, this soft body of these members of this mollusca is subdivided into the ventral muscular foot. The first one, ventral muscular foot, they will have the visceral mass on top of the foot, or have a kind of visceral mass on top of the foot. So you see, especially this is clearly distinguished in snail. You see the muscular foot that enables it to locate to move from one location to another. Then we also see the visceral mass on top of the foot, and of course the last one is what we call the mantle cavity. The mantle cavity, the mantle cavity. So these three different locations these three different divisions are found within the soft body of this organism. Then we'll have other characteristics which you may likely study later. You can Google the mollusca and see some other important characteristics that are found there. And some of these characteristics are also embedded in some of the classes. For instance, the first class is Amphineura. Amphineura. This Amphineura, this Amphineura is also called Amphineura is also called polyplaco polyplacophora. The Amphineura is also called polyplacophora, and the reason is because of the many shells. They have many shells, and for that reason, they are called Amphineura or polyplacophora. That is the presence of many shells. A typical example of these members of this organism is the chitons. The chitons. If you look at the chitons, you see many layers of shells that are found in this organism. Then we'll have the next class, which is called the monoplacophora. The monoplacophora. Monoplacophora. Mono, of course, means one, so it has one layer of shell. One shell, the monoplacophora. An example is the neopolina. The neopolina. But then, like I mentioned, when we talked about the characteristics of mollusca, there is a kind of internal segmentation. Remember, I said that members of this group are unsegmented organism, animals, but then in the member in among members of monoplacophora, there's a kind of internal segmentation. That means they are segmented internally, and this is a proof that they evolved from a segmented organism or a segmented worm, which is known as the annelida. Then the next class is the gastropoda. The gastropoda. In the gastropoda, that is where you see the snail and the slug, and that is a very large class. A very large class, compared to these other classes we have here. We have so many organisms that are found under this class, the gastropoda. So the members are huge. So they have the aquatic ones and the terrestrial ones. The aquatic ones, of course, use the gills for the purpose of respiration, but the terrestrial ones have lost their gills, but then they have a vascularized mantle cavity, and this vascularized mantle cavity, performs the function of gills. That is, helps in gaseous exchange. That is for members of gastropoda. We have example as the snail and the slug. The fourth class is lamellibrancha. Lamellibranchata. Lamelli. La. In case you are not seeing it well, lamellibranchata, which is also called the bivalves. The bivalves. So the lamellibranchata, the bivalve is another name. B meaning two. So members of this group have two shells. They have two different shells, and that is why they are called the beavers. They also give it the name the beavers. Of course, we have examples: the clams, and scallop. Scallop. These are examples. These are of examples of lamellibranchata. Lamellibranchata. All right. Then the next one is the cephalopoda. The cephalopoda. That word cepha means head. So members of this group have a well-developed head, cephalopoda. Cephalopoda. So cepha means head. So members of this group have a well-developed head. Not just that they have a well-developed head, they're also equipped with tentacles. And this makes the organism to sense stimulus easily in the environment. It can sense the presence of predators very, very fast, and it's one of the adaptations of this organism to run away from predators and to preserve its life. Well, the organism we're going to see here is the nautilus and the octopus. The octopus, octopus, the octopus, the nautilus. These are some of the examples of the organisms you see under cephalopoda. Cephalopoda. Don't forget, like I said, they have a well-developed head. Then the last but not the least is the scaphopoda. The scaphopoda. Members of this group are devoid of eyes, they lack eyes, and the reason they lack eyes is because they are usually found buried at the bottom of the ocean. They're usually found buried within the bottom of the ocean. So they do not have any need for eyes because of the nature of their habitat, the the scaphopoda. But then a major diagnostic feature characteristics of members of this group is also the fact that they have a tubular shell. They have a tubular shell. This tubular shell is in such a way that it opens at the two different ends. They have a kind of tubular shell. So the tubular shell, they're opened at this end and also opened at this end. So that is the little thing or what we have to study when it comes to mollusca. There are so many other things to talk about mollusca. There are so many other things. But what I'm trying to do is to give a kind of a summary of some of this phylum, not simply go into details to study them. That is not what we've been, what we want to do. Just to give you a kind of summary of the details. Then, if you have need